Tēnā tātou, nau mahara mai ki te hui, te whakamutunga o te wai me te whenua, mo te kaunea rai o te waitā, ko whāti te rākau, te Councillor Burns, Whamiri calling, te Mihi o tēnā, Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Tūtawa mai I ruka, tūtawa mai I raro, tūtawa mai I roto, tūtawa mai I wāho. Kia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora ki te kapua, hui e, tai ti e. Tai nā mane nā reo, ai nā tai whā, nā hoi whā, tērā ranga tērā mā, tēnā koutou. Para mai nei, ki tō tātou hui, te wai, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Ki nā manuhiri ki konei, ki te rorahiko hoki, e nā kaihautu o nā komiti, te mā ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Ai, ka huri au takapokaro ki nā tini aitua hoki, e nā mate, o ia marae, o ia takiwa, o ia motu, haere, haere, haere atura. Haere ki Hawaii nui, Hawaii roa, Hawaii pāmaua, e nā mate, hoi mai, oki oki mai. Āpiti hono o tātou hono, tātou ki a rātou, āpiti hono o tātou hono, tātou ki a tātou, a tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora. Tēnā koe, Councillor Burns, Councillor Falling, me te Karakia, me te Mihi, I tēnei ata. Ai, e koutou ki ngā mihi ko mihia, kia rātou mā, kia ngā manuhiri, hara mai tēnei rā, just acknowledging our manuhiri that will be here today in chambers. We have Oscar, tēnā koe. Oscar, welcome again, amongst us. Good to have you here. Also, as you'll see online, we'll have all the CWMS chairs and representatives today from all the way from the top Paikoda and down the way to the Whakakapi. So very privileged to have Ted Howard, Caroline Layton, we have Oscar in chambers, we have Gina representing back Peninsula, hopefully Matt Dobson from Selwyn, if not, we have Jamie Grant, our special guest today. Tēnā koe Jamie, Ashburton, Bill Thomas, Otop, Glenn Smith, Upper Waitaki, unavailable of Matt Bayliss, but we're lucky to have Murray stepping in, and then also Matt Ward, Councillor Ward, have a few comments, and from the lower Waitaki, hopefully the story will be on have an updated more on you there. But nā reira, no mahara mai, ki tēnei hui whakamutunga, for the Wai Mika Whenua, the last Water and Land Committee. Yes, it's the last committee, I think, before we change to our new look, and we'll talk about that later at the end of the meeting. But we have apologies from Councillor East, I take it, and Councillor DJ, and Councillor Scott, and Korako for lateness. Organising the Makari event. There's no conflicts of interest, there's no deputations or public forums, there are no extraordinary business. Anyone has a notice of motion? No, apply. Moving forward, we move on to the minutes. 7.1. Any comments, any corrections of the minutes from the meeting held on the 8th of May 2024? If none, I'll move it from the chair. You can have a seconder, Councillor Ward. For those in favour, please say aye. Harry, order. Moving on to report items 8.1 on page 15. I'll hand over to
the Chair, and happy to take the report as read. As you can see, the resolutions are all green, but they have been completed.
Tēnā koe Jim, any clarification or questions? The motion there is on page 15. It's on the board there. Can I have a mover? Councillor Edge, second by Councillor Duckworth. Any comments? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye, sure, carried. Order. Moving on to 8.2. 8.2 is the action plan for all the zone committees. So we're as you will receive a presentation that's been uploaded on Docs on Tap. It's got all the maps and a lot of the work that the zones have been talking about. I'll bring Murray up to the table, please, the team leader for strategy and planning. As I said, we have the zone chairs online. If the zone chairs are listening, please take that all the papers have been read, and then when you come on to talk, if you can just highlight any points you'd like to really put across, and then also for the councillors to send questions if you have any. Kia ora tātou. Over to you, Murray. Kia ora tātou. Those online, our microphones in the chamber sometimes are playing up. So if you hear it, if we go, there's empty space or you can't hear us, we're just changing microphones. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you for the opportunity to present this paper to the committee. I guess that at your last meeting of this committee, it's great to provide a regional overview of the 75k that's being provided across the 10 water zones of Canterbury, and just extend an appreciation for the chairs and other reps that are online and here to speak to these projects. I probably don't need to say too much more than that and enable the chairs and that to speak to those projects. I'll just note that we have quickly put together that map reference and a few photos just to give you a sense of some of the projects in each zone. So I'll try and manage our way through that from north to south as we move through the presentation. So, hand it back to you, Chair. And
Sure, Murray. So have you got that ready to go up, that presentation? Oh, there we go. Magic. Say your name a couple of times and it works. Could those online see the presentation online?
Oh, it's on the right.
Oh, we're just about to share the presentation online, so the ones online can see it as well. And Ted, you can turn your camera on if you'd like.
Yeah. A slight technical issue there. Camera's deciding it doesn't want to turn on. Oh, yep, there we go. I'm back. I can't actually see the presentation, but I have a copy on my machine, so I sort of know what.
Up there. There we go.
Yep, excellent.
Yeah, Kia ora, Ted. So just take the paper as read. Yeah, any highlights, a couple of points that you really like to put forward, and as Murray's already said, he's got some amazing photos and maps of the work that you've done through the last year. Kia ora. Over to you, Ted.
Kia ora. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Claire and Grant and the rest of the team for this opportunity to speak. Yeah, just going through the projects briefly. We had the Hapuku Catchment Collective. This is a continuation of a coalition of the willing approach. This sort of hapua ecosystem with the fresh water at the base of an uplifted beach cliff is quite uncommon. And this particular one contains the southern limit of Black Maori in New Zealand. So yeah, having a great collection of people there sort of right around that ecosystem, it's really a great project. It's a cooperative effort and it's conserving wetlands that are rare lowland ecosystems. The Waiau hapua protection effort, this is part of our ongoing work in the Waiau, particularly focused around the black-fronted tern, but also the wider ecosystem there, including weta, skinks, and many other species. Our Sea Week and Waiau cleanup efforts, I think both of those events went very well. It's a great way of engaging with the community, particularly with the younger community. I did my usual walk from the stream mouth up the bed in my chest waders up above the main road bridge, That's something I've been doing for 20 years, well, 25 years now, so long before the water zones came into being. So yeah, one thing I've noticed is that it was so much cleaner than when we started doing this 25 years ago. Like, still picked up a couple of road cones and a few drink cans, but like quite low numbers. And generally speaking, most of the floor of the stream was clean. So really good to see. The Tirohanga wetland, stage 2, like this is an entirely new wetland created by the earthquake uplift. And it's a really great opportunity to see the natural processes at work. So great to see the commitment and involvement present. I make a point every time I go past of stopping and having a good look. And the last one, the Waiau Clarence Weed Management, this has been our flagship project from day one. Like the work started really with David Bedford and Bill Bayfield with a conference on the Clarence, and Steve Palmer just did so much great work in the early part of this, and we're just carrying on doing it. It's the last great undeveloped East Coast braided river system left. I personally had the opportunity this year to spend 4 days on the river with Heath and members of the rivers team, working on weed control from the ravine down to boundary stream. Long, hard days, but satisfying work, and great to see the difference it makes. So yeah, that's what we've been up to. So I'll leave it open to questions.
Kia ora too, thank you for that. Councillor Ed, do you have anything?
Yes, I don't have a question, Ted, but I want to thank you for your tireless efforts in dedication to the people of Kaikoura and the zone committee and leading that zone committee. It's a privilege to be part of that. It's my second term time being on the committee. I just wanted to call out the fact that mention yourself, Robbie Roach and Tony Blunt from the District Council, Clint McConaughey from the Runanga, and then we have Nicky MacArthur, John Murray, Terry Sonnell, Desiree Bolton, Aria Boyd, and Gina Solomon, who have dedicated that they were carry over from the last term as well, are really dedicated to improving the local environment. And it's an environment that is very special. It is a highly outstanding natural landscape setting. And you'll see that the projects that we are concentrating on, Ted, along the coastline. And I know that Jenna Solomon, for example, is tirelessly working on the Karakia project because the ocean and the coastline in Kaikoura are so special. And the people of Kaikoura are getting behind these things as much as possible. So look, I think you know, there's an endeavour the next step in the improvement of the Kaikoura landscape is about seeking World Heritage status for Kaikoura, and I'm really hoping that can succeed in the future. But yeah, well done, Ted, and to all those people on the committee. And I also want to thank Heath Melville, who provided fantastic local ECAN advice to the committee, and he was also participating on the ground as well. So it's a really tremendous effort. And of course, he'll be sadly missed in terms of what he does. Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Grant. Yeah, totally. That took all that you said there. Yeah, it's just such a great thing to be involved with such a great committed team of people. And yeah, it's good to see the work happening, and it needs to happen. And you're right, it's a very special place, Kaikoura, kia te kitai, from the mountaintops to the ocean. Like we were involved, Gina and I, and several others have been involved in the Te Karawai process for almost 20 years now. Yeah, 19 years since we started that. Quite a journey.
Kia ora, Ted. Do we have a question from Councillor Southwood?
Kia ora, Ted. Thank you for the presentation. It always looks beautiful seeing pictures of my grand Kokoda. Just for in terms of the Waiau protection project, are people an issue there? I know there are people and dogs are a problem in other parts around the Kokoda township. I know I've seen that in the press a few times. Outside the Waiau, is that more specifically the test, like you've got traps, or is there also a communications and a human aspect that needs to be managed there?
It's mostly about trapping, but there is a communication issue there. Like, I'm a keen four-wheel driver, but there are still some idiots out there who take their four-wheel drives and just drive straight through the middle of bird nesting colonies. And Phil Bradfield was actually out there fishing late last year when somebody did that right in front of him. So yeah, it's a bit of both. For the most part, though, it's weed and pest management with a lesser component of human awareness and responsibility. But yeah, human responsibility is essential for all of our ecosystems. And it's happening, but would be nice to have it happen faster.
Kia ora, Ted. Thank you for that. And just to reiterate the words of Councillor Edge there, just the work you've done in and around the community of Kokoda, as you said, keep the eye from the mountains to the sea, and also just in the work that you've done in some of the special rivers for myself, the Waiau and the Waikowau. Just knowing over the last 20 years they're going through Kokoda and seeing the difference that the work that you've done and the committee has done in making sure that that beautiful stream that runs through township is an asset now to the community. So on behalf of the councillors here, thank you for your time, Ted, today, and enjoy the rest of your. You can stay online if you want, but otherwise, I'm sure you've got more time. Thank you for that.
Kia ora. Thanks, Ian. Thank you, team.
Moving on to the Waimakariri, we have Caroline Latham. You can see the camera on. Caroline.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies, I don't actually have a video because our internet service is a bit substandard here.
Kapai, just as I said, take your points as read. We have maps on screen so we can see where the projects are, and then any highlights, and then I'll hand over to Councillor Mackay for any words as well.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, just got a few notes here. This year we were oversubscribed by more than 100%, which we thought was really positive because it shows that there's awareness and interest out there and people are wanting to do environmental projects. But it did mean that we could only partially fund some of the projects. A big part of feeding these projects into the AP fund is the work done by Anna Veltman, she's ECAN's Waimakariri LMA. We've also got Kate Steele and Bex Dollery at WDC, and also the Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust, who all feed projects in for the AP fund. So there's a lot of cooperation and collaboration that goes on, and that results in really good connections. So the 9 projects are quite diverse, really. We had 4 wetland projects. These included some wetlands that we've previously granted funding for willow removal mainly. The removal had been really successful and it kick-started a whole lot of native regeneration, but at the same time the willows were also regenerating. So most of the zone committee went down and had a look at the Kaiapoi wetlands, and it really helped to reinforce that the scale of the work required for willow control on some of those larger wetlands is probably beyond the average landowner, and therefore the funding that they get is really valuable to supplement what they're doing themselves, and it just makes projects like those a whole lot more doable. We had 1 project for stream monitoring, and that's the 3rd year of a 3-year program for a local catchment group. There's a couple of riparian planting projects, 1 on a farm, 1 on a lifestyle block. The Waimakariri irrigation scheme have also given plants to the lifestyle block project, so it's great to see them active in that space. And we're hoping that that lifestyle block project might also be a precursor to a catchment group of some kind at some point. There's a shorebird monitoring project for the Ashley Rakahuri River Care Group, and that's a follow-on from some initial monitoring that we funded. and it's a group that we've supported regularly in the past. And then the last one was the second year of the Waimakariri Environmental Awards, which are held with the WDC Community Awards. So some of the Zone Committee went out and saw most of the projects and met the landowners this year, and we found that really valuable and a good way to build relationships in the community. We also had the opportunity to review our action plan this year, but we decided not to until the outcome of the Zone Committee review is known. But we've had 3 years now of allocating the fund and seen how well the action plan actually facilitates the funding of different projects. But there's probably some adjustments that we could make to the goals in our action plan, and they might give us a bit more scope around what we can fund. So that's all I had. Does anyone have any questions?
I'll just hand over to Councillor Mackay.
I don't really have any questions right at the moment, but just the comment that to Carolyn, I really want to thank you for the leadership that you've shown as a Zone Committee Chair in the last 3 years. 4 years?
1, I think, Chair.
It's only 1. I thought it was more than that. I'm sure it's a long one.
It feels like more.
So, and your contribution that you've made in the past, but it's same as Councillor Reid said with regard to Kaikoura. It's all the members and the community members that make up that team as well. And I just would like to also thank the staff that are involved, and you have mentioned Anna Beltman, particularly around the action plans, but we've got Murray Griffin, our facilitator, sitting here, so I'd just like to thank Murray for sticking with us for many years now. But also other staff that have been involved, Andrew Arts, Merida, we've got a biodiversity person whose name just escapes me right at the moment, James. But, you know, and I'll probably miss some, but just, yeah, it's really good to have everybody involved. And I would just really say that I do appreciate your drive around actions on the ground, and particularly your involvement in the Saltwater Creek atmospheric monitoring, which is 8 here on the map. But Carolyn has been integral in getting that up and going, and really acknowledge that. And you are also being a very important driver in getting this Hunter Stream 1 catchment group going up. Hopefully yours truly here can actually help get that facilitated as well, work with Waimea Irrigation Limited and Blanky Trust. Just quite keen to be part of that. So we really do appreciate your local activity and your local drive and your local passion, Carolyn, and also your role as the chair. And I do also acknowledge, probably more recently, when we've actually had the Waimakariri Biodiversity Trust up and going, and I think that's they're working very, very closely, as you say, in a collaborative manner with us and Waimak District Council and their biodiversity personnel as well. So, yeah, just really want to acknowledge all the work that's been done and the good work that we do in the Waimakariri, and I think that this is one example of how we get some visibility, but it would be really nice if we can actually get wider visibility to the wider community as well. So, thank you.
Any other questions or clarification for Caroline?
Kia ora, Caroline. Yeah, really interesting to read this report, and you just mentioned the Saltwater Creek, which is the one that I had a question on, and you found like the perfect person to answer my question, which was really like, you know, have you got some initial findings from that, and what actions is that sort of driving? And it's great that you've been doing this monitoring program, so it'd be great to hear a little bit more about that, what your findings are, and what next.
Thanks, Vicky. I hope you can hear me all right, because my sound is cutting in and out a wee bit. Yeah, so we've been doing the monitoring program. I think we've done about 9 sampling tests so far, and generally, well, I mean, it's still early days. I like to think that the catchment is probably looking pretty good, but definitely room for improvement. Adrian Meredith from ECAN came out and talked to us about what the sampling's showing to date and what it all means. It's actually a bit of a just to get your head around what it all means is and what's been recorded is a bit of a challenge. One thing that we have got underway at the moment is we're working with Waiau Connection, which is EOS Ecology. They're connecting us to the Access to Experts scheme, which gives groups like ours access to, I guess, a water scientist who will look at our data that we've collected so far and write it up into a report so that we can understand, what our baseline is starting to look like, and hopefully that might get us started on a catchment management plan path. We've kind of got that in the back of our minds, but it's a bit of a big beast to tackle, and we're still sort of trying to work out what our direction is on that. So, yeah, in terms of the catchment health, I think pretty good, but still early days and still plenty to do.
That sounds great. Thank you, Carolyn. And good luck with it. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Carolyn, you've just reminded me, perhaps you might like to just expand a little bit around the Waiau Connection work and just perhaps give your views on how it's working for Waimakariri Landcare Trust.
Well, it's interesting really, because we sort of, when they first came down here, we did wonder, we sort of were quite excited about accessing some of the help that they were offering, but we found that we were already doing quite a lot of the stuff that they were offering for help with. Like if they'd come along 2 years ago, for example, it would have been really good because they'd have had all that monitoring, spreadsheeting and that ready to go, rather than us having to sort of work it out for ourselves. So it has been a bit difficult to work out how they can actually help us. But they, as I mentioned, the Access to Experts scheme is one way that they're helping our group. And they've also just recently launched a map series for the Waimakariri Plains area. So that's the area south of Ashley River. And there's a huge amount of data captured in one place on those plans. And they're pretty awesome looking plans. I guess the jury's still out as to, it must have cost an awful lot of money to put them together, and is that actually going to be reflected in helping to identify actions to make improvements? That's yet to be discovered, I guess.
That point for the MFB report and my views are quite aligned with your thinking. So without actually telling everybody what I've put in is my quote at the moment.
About the 8 projects, and also the Waiau Connection there at the end. Your insight will help us move forward. So, Kanakwe, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me along.
Moving right along to the Christchurch West Mountain, and we'll bring Oscar up to the table. Once again, Oscar, take it as read, and then once you've highlighted a few points, I'll hand over to Councillor Burns, and then up to questions.
Cool, thank you for having me. This is with a slightly different hat. I'm quite new to this role, so I was elected, I guess, in February, so only a few months in. I'll note as well that we were really oversubscribed with our action plan funding off not a whole lot of, a good amount of reaching out to the community, but we kind of knew that we would have that oversubscription, so it wasn't crazy, and we had $217,000 worth of kind of people coming to us. That was pretty sick. That's really cool for us. I think that we probably, and sorry, excuse my leaf. I've been in a workshop this morning about behaviour change in our zone, which is really exciting and something that I'm encouraging all of our zone committee members to do more of, getting within their within our community. So on projects we have funded, I think particularly exciting for the zone committee and for us is stuff that maybe looks slightly different from what I think the zone committee may have interacted with in the past. That looks like the River Clean, which is which is not on the River Clean. Oh, we've got photos. I didn't actually know we had these. This is cool. And also around our work with Petitions, which is Jenny Bond, who runs it, is actually facilitating the workshop I'm at today. And I think these are really cool projects that combine things that we think are really important in the zone, which is around education and engagement, and also like connecting people to their environment. And these projects like do that really well, and they're really close to the ground, which is really exciting for us. I think not uniquely, but kind of differently in our zone, we probably aren't, as the zone committee itself doesn't actually undertake a whole lot of our own projects, because there are community groups we can support in a better way for them to do those projects for our action plan. So that's kind of our role, what we see. Oh, also note here, got Stormwater Superhero trailer, which has been running along well. I remember that was like when I first got on the committee, was something that was like the dream to have a stormwater trailer, and now it's there and it works, and it's operated by the Enviro Hub Trust, which is really sick, and we think that's really cool. Yeah, and I hope that in the future over the zone committees, look, we can maintain that really close community connection. We think we know the issues around our zone really well, and it's really exciting to be involved in this Mihi. Yeah, it's like my third or fourth year on the committee, so it's, I think after 3 or 4 years, you finally feel like you found your feet a little bit, because quite a lot of the issues are really heady, and you get thrown reports, and you're like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? But I've searched Google enough, so I understand it all now. Yeah, thank you.
Kia ora, Oscar, thank you for that. I hand over to Councillor Burns. Kia ora, good to see you, and it's very exciting in my mind to see you leading a demographic of exciting and youthful committee members. That's something I've been very impressed about the Karakia West Melton committee. I don't really want to follow up too much on the projects themselves. I will, though, acknowledge Annabelle Hasselman and Mike Patchett, who were the chair and deputy, and I think you will clearly become yourself as the chair, but I think they've given you a good ability to be able to sort of pick it up and run with, and I'm very excited about where it's heading. I will mention a couple though, and I think what I really enjoy about this committee is they have both an understanding of smaller, projects like the one that Jenny Bond, who by the way is ex-ETAN, running, but right through to the joint initiatives with around erosion, sediment control, the impact that it has upon especially our waterways and estuary, flow-on effects, that type of thing. I've been really impressed by that particular part of it. And you actually took my bit about the trailer. I too, the first meeting I ever turned up when I was appointed as the council rep for this, where you were handing out the awards 2 years ago for the superhero awards, and I, on the face of it, it doesn't seem very big at all, but it's part of that whole engaging with communities. It is about getting messages through to, in this case, many of them are corporates who are involved with things like heavy metals, the likes of it, detergents down waterways, etc. But it's providing that sort of understanding that everything is connected. So I guess rather than ramble on, I will, which you of course know, I would just like to say congratulations on behalf. I look forward to tonight's meeting. Actually, Kia ora.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg. And I didn't forget about Mike and Annabelle. I just think I'm always thinking about their contribution to the committee, and I feel like I'd already said this at ECAM, but I said it at the city council. Yeah, they're pretty cool people, and like Annabelle, like Mike just brings expertise, and his brain is so big when it comes to waterways issues that I just go like, what? How do you know that? And it's really incredible. And he seems to know everyone that walks into the room, and like the longevity of how long he's stayed engaged, even when like urban water in Canterbury looks pretty shocking at times. Like, and he's just there and he's continuing the fight, which I think is amazing. And Annabelle is like managed to take on a chair's role with such a warmth. And I thought that was just like, compared to other things I've been part of, you felt very included when she was chairing meetings and everyone had a voice at the table. So appreciate them a lot. And I will just note as well on the Superheroes Awards that Councillor Burns was talking about, they were much bigger this year. They were at City Council, the Mayor was there, there was, what was the name of there was a really amazing person speaking about freshwater, I've forgotten his name, and that was a big, there was probably about 60, 70 people in that room, and we had some amazing applications by businesses, like out in Hornby, like in different areas, and that was a really cool connection because it felt like we were not just hitting our kind of community volunteers, but also like engaging with corporates, which was really cool. Yeah, so I hope we can continue to do some marketing in the future.
Could I ask, I'll hand over to Councillor Southwood.
So a question about the estuary research project, and I don't know if you know yet what the research project's going to be, but otherwise just a bit of an idea of maybe some of the previous projects that they've done. And it's lovely to hear everything you had to say about all this.
So I haven't had like I don't have like that information with me as an update of what it is. But I know the Estuary Trust are really involved in a lot of like every project around there, right? Like the Motherwell cleanups, all that stuff. So I think they, from my conversations before they like received the funding, it sounded like what they were looking at was stuff to do with just like they're doing research on. Give me 1 second. Oh yeah. So I think I don't know what the internships actually technically are yet, but I think we'll get an update on that really soon, hopefully, because that's what we've been kind of pushing for. We've just had new coordinators and different people, and so we're just kind of hitting our stride now in June, which seems crazy. But I think I'll be able to give you all that information. We can email it to you or something. That's how it works. Yeah.
Got a Councillor Southwood. Oscar, just I'd like to acknowledge the good to see the superhero trailer is still going. I remember the first original superhero, Tom Lambie, back in 2016, that we made sure we got that trailer built and designed back then, and Tom used to wear his superhero shirt proudly in and around and go to activities, and I think so good to see it's still going. So I think I've got a question from Councillor. Yep, Switz.
Yeah, there's a long history with the superheroes, and it's quite good. Yeah, it's there going. Popping out of that is obviously the Urban Waterways Partnership. Are you, as a zone committee, very much involved in that, or is there a way that the zone committee can support getting that back up and running, incorporate some of the superheroes rather than reinventing the wheels all over the place? Is there much for it? Yeah, maybe you haven't come across it or some part of it.
Are you referring to the Community Waterways Partnership? Yes, actually, that's the workshop I'm at today. So that's been with the Community Waterways Partnership. The Zone Committee has been an active part of that from the beginning, signed up for at the beginning. We are also part of the steering group, which is like kind of 10 groups of like the kind of 40 or 50 that are there now. Our role in that basically looks like eventually the hope is that we can provide, like we've got lots of staff expertise through ECAN, so we can provide that sort of expertise. Other stuff is through our action plan funding. In the past, I think, maybe in the last round, we did give money to develop, I'm pretty sure it's a mapping tool. I might be wrong, could have been a different project, but we have given money to the partnership in the past. And also, just generally, I think we've also been talking about, because we've got this space, we get to come and speak to council, we can provide that probably uniquely, like political decision maker perspective. Yeah, but that's what I'm at today. That's a workshop with the members of that and staff about creating behaviour change when it comes to urban waterways. Yeah, we're heavily involved in the Community Waterways Partnership, which is cool. Really exciting. Yeah.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Oscar. Thank you for your time. Sounds like you've got to go back to the workshop now. All right, then, so thank you for coming in and finding time for us. Tēnā koe, kia ora. Moving right along to the Pātaka Rāwhai Hotu, Banks Peninsula. Do we have Gina online? Turn your camera on if you want, Gina. We can always come back to Gina. Moving right along, we'll move on to Selwyn. Selwyn Waihora. Matt Dobson's not available. We have Jamie Grant coming to the table. Kia ora, Jamie, tēnā koe. And we also have Councillor Southfield here as well. Over to you, Jamie. Highlights. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, mana watia Matariki, ko Jamie aho. I'm Jamie and I'm the zone facilitator filling in for Matt, who is currently, I think, in France as we speak. And I think just like some of the other presenters have, some of the chairs have mentioned, Selwyn Waihora was also overprescribed. They received requests for over 160k worth of funding following a round of advertising. The 75k was shared between the 10 projects that are, I guess, up on that PowerPoint slide, and it was split between projects that engaged the community on restoration projects, educated tamariki or children to be good kaitiaki, raised the visibility of mahi happening in the zone, and also educating the community on topics of importance to the zone committee. So I'm just going to pull out a few. You'll see on the slide with the photos up the top there are 3 photos for which is from the Upper Waikiri Catchment Collective's Community Planting Day. So this is a recently formed catchment group up around the White Cliffs area. They recently had that planting day which the zone committee funded, which was instrumental in getting that group off the ground. And it's probably quite important to note that they are supported by Wai Connection and also New Zealand Land Care Trust, and they've recently secured 625k worth of funding from the government to help progress their efforts, so quite an achievement there. I might just carry on with the Waikirikiri River catchment. The Zone Committee supported a Quorum Sense Curiosity Day, which was an opportunity for farmers and also community to learn a bit about regenerative farming principles. So the day largely consisted of presentations at Glen Tunnel around Soil House, and then followed a field trip to the Scarlet Farm, which is about 10k out of Darfield, to learn about the trials, the pros and cons that they've been facing with the mahi that they're doing on their farm as well. And just off the back of that, the Zone Committee also supported or hosted a screening of the 6 Inches of Soil documentary, which is about 3 UK farmers who are looking to, I guess, practicing some bringing, they are utilising regenerative farming practices. And that was followed by a panel discussion with some of the local farmers and what they're seeing, and also some of the, I guess, comparisons between what they've been working on versus what was in that documentary. There were quite a few projects that engaged tamariki, so aquatic bug bags, which is run by the waterways. There was also the Ladbrokes Shade House project, and I'll just mention for that school, Te Ara Kakariki established a shade house so that the students could propagate their own plants that were locally sourced from locally sourced seeds, and then they use those plants that they grow to plant at their Stackwood Bends location, where they've been working alongside Enviro schools. And I'll just flag also Te Pā o Moki Waitekiwa, which is number 6 on that map. So the Zone Committee provided funding to Lincoln High School to pay for their bus transport, and just the reason I'm kind of raising it is just to flag that MOE don't actually provide funding for bus transport, and it's becoming increasingly challenging for schools to actually get like these parents to come along and provide transport. So the Zone Committee thought that was a good initiative for funding too. They also received a request of similar nature from Greendale Primary School, and fortunately, when they came and presented to the zone committee, we had CPW Limited who were there, and they ended up connecting with the school and providing them with funding as well, which was quite nice to see. I'll also note the ESAI Restoration Coordination Project. So the Zone Committee over 2 years committed 20k towards Ellesmere Sustainable Agriculture Incorporated to go towards the coordination cost initially for Project Tinaku, which they were funded through the MPI Jobs for Nature Fund, and then also further coordination costs once that funding wrapped up to allow them to continue some of that work, to see if they could source some more funding and towards restoration plans as well. And the reason I'm just raising that is because it's quite challenging for some of those groups to actually secure funding for project coordination costs. You're probably overspoken, so I might just pass your equal name stop here, and I just hand it over to Jeff.
Kia ora, Jamie, thank you for that.
Really well, just to say I've been on the zone committee for nearly 5 years. I've up to heading towards 5 years now, and it has been one that's had quite a lot of change in all that time. Jamie coming on board and being involved now in quite a continuous way has been really can see how it's, I think as a zone we've sort of taken off. Feels like we've got a good roll on, and it was really pleasing to see the sort of diversity of projects that came forward funding this time around as well. So we're really reaching a wider range of people in the community, and I know we're looking now at what might we do around some of the stormwater superheroes, because we do have Rollister and Lincoln, some of these bigger urbanised areas as well. So we're recognising that we want to try and be involved in some of the water policy around urban issues as well. And I guess to say a big thank you to Les Monahala, who was chair for a long time, who's now not chair, who's resigned from being chair. We've got Matt Dodson, who's currently overseas, but he's got lots of new ideas and focus. So it feels like we're in a really good place, and look forward to the following year.
Thanks, Jamie. I was just your site 3, the White Cliffs, reminded me of a submission from the community at the last long-term plan, where they were expressing concern about water quality. Is there monitoring taking place as part of that project?
Yes, I'm pretty certain there are. They are linked in with Y Connection, which do support that work, and I'll make an assumption that that will be part of that 625k work that they'll be doing.
Thank you for the report. Just a question around that Upper Waitaki catchment group and how wide is it? The Waitaki catchment group, and how wide are they?
Not sure if I'm qualified to answer that. Councillor Lydia Glidden from Selwyn District Council has been leading that, and I know it's made up of the farming catchment group and also the Glen Tunnel community group as well, but I'm not actually sure the extent or the reach of the catchment collective. Sorry.
Kia ora tātou. Councillor Burns. Kia ora, thank you. That's very good. Look, I just have a question on the well testing days. It says here that set aside, I'm presuming that means to come.
Yes, so the plan is to have 2 to 3 testing days, like spaced out over the next, this year. And we're working in conjunction with Selwyn District Council and Ellesmere Sustainable Ag has come on board. They've got a nitrate tester as well, and we've got some other parties who are interested in getting involved. So yes, we're just working on framing that up with the intention to run those days in the future this year.
Kia ora, thank you. Kia ora, Jamie. Thank you for coming to the table and talking on the Selwyn Whitewater. And I think that'll be it. Moving right on, still having problems with Gina and her microphone, so we're going to move on to you, Bill, for the Ashburton Zone Committee, Bill Thomas. If you can turn your camera on, Bill. Hopefully you're still online.
I'm here. Have you got a picture?
Not yet, Bill. We can hear you though.
That's good. I think the camera should go. I can hear you clearly anyway. You probably don't need to see me. Kia ora, yeah, nice for you to invite us along, and to the councillors and to the ECAN staff there. I'd just like to start by thanking, we had David Moore, our facilitator, who's moved on to other zones now. We've Jamie Grant, we're very lucky to have managed to get her, so thank you very much for Jamie, and then the ECAN staff over the year that have come out to see us and support us, which is great. And of course, Councillor Mackenzie, who's busy enough, but turns out regularly to our zone meetings, which is very helpful. I know it's you've read it all, so I'd just like to just say that the few things we've tried to do over the years is to get the youth involved, and a couple of these projects have educational opportunities where school groups come along and look at them and get involved and learn a bit about nature and engage, and so that's really been very successful. We've also managed to engage more urban groups now. We've got the Methven Birdsong group, and even Carter's Creek, which is part of Lake Hood, so there's some urban people there. And interesting enough, at Lake Hood, the access bridge monitors vehicles, and there's over 440,000 vehicles that go over that bridge every year, and if they've got 2 people in, well, that's 800. If there's buses doing rowing or cycling, it could be up to 1 million. So it's pretty far reaching. Nitrate sensors have been a big, we've used them a lot, or people have asked funding for a lot of those in our area, which is really good because people are now understanding nitrates and water levels. What can we do to mitigate them, improve them, which, you know, is obviously a big priority for ECAN for doing that. I should also, of course, thank ECAN for the money. You know, it started off big, went smaller, and it's got a bit larger again, but it's very helpful to keep, you know, shows ECAN in a good light and engage with the community. So really, you've seen it all written down. I don't think there's much more to add. If there's any questions, far ahead, but thanks for the opportunity.
Kia ora, Bill. I'll hand over to Councillor Mackenzie if he's got anything else to add.
No, not really. Only just to acknowledge the leadership of Bill and Amy running the zone committee. There's been a few controversial issues that the zone committee has had to handle, including Leafwood Creek, Lakewood, and a few others, and the Ashburton Lakes. And I think that Bill, it's fair to say that people like Ange Kushney and Phil Everest and Janine Holland and others, and including Ross Hawthorne on the Ashburton River, do a great job in the community leading projects. And I think especially the Catchment Collective, which coordinates a lot of the actual work that goes on in the ground. So,
Kia ora, Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Eads.
oh, hi Bill. Just a query regarding the Staveley Camp Forest Community Tract Library. The heading we've got in the report just suggests that it's possibly just a possum trap library, but I'm wondering, are you trapping more things other than just possum?
Yes, they are. They've got, I think they've had a few stoats and ferrets, and I'm not sure if we're allowed to say CATSs, but occasionally a few wild ones of those. So it is, and one thing we've done is got other organisations in touch with them. For example, the Methven Birdsong one, they want to do trapping library as well, and we said, well, Staveley's got some, so they've got together and utilising the traps more widely, so that's been beneficial. Yeah.
Just another question on that. I know in the Kaikoura Zone Committee on Conservation had a similar sort of project. Is the Department of Conservation assisting with funding or management with the project?
Department of Conservation, they're interesting. No, the answer is no. They should be, but they're not.
Thanks. Probably worth noting, Bill, isn't it, that the Staveley project probably complements the work that the Mount Somers Walkway group do with trapping on the mountain itself. And sort of the bottom of that walkway.
Kia ora, Councillor Southwood.
But a really great to see the project. I noticed on your trap inspection photograph, you've got a wee kiddie checking out the trap there. I just wonder whether you've had any involvement with any of the, or any applications from any of the enviro schools in your area, of which I know a few of those are the younger end, and what sort of, whether you mentioned about education and youth getting involved, and whether you've reached out to any of those.
Well, basically, a couple of the schools have visited, especially the mudfish one, what's it called, Riverview, and native river plantings. So they've come and viewed them, and then they've come and talked to the committee. So they haven't applied for funding as such, but they have been interested in what's going on and looking at the projects, and have been invited out to them, and they help plant and see what's going on. So it's that sort of engagement that's happening.
And if I can just add to that, that's not run through the Enviro School. Enviro Schools only has the only schools in mid-Canterbury other than Karakia Forest, which straddles the South Canterbury border, that are involved with Enviro Schools preschools, and they're not involved in this project. But Anne's Krishna drives the coordination with the primary schools that will be involved in, so that's nothing to do with Enviro Schools.
Kia ora, Bill. Thank you for coming online today, giving your time and the work that you're doing for the zone committee in and around for the community. And just reiterate the words from Councillor Mackenzie, just acknowledging your mahi over the last few years. Nō reira, tēnā koe. Thank you, Bill. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Cheers. Bye.
Moving on, Gina on, not yet, so Gina's not there yet. So we'll move on down to OTOPS. As Glenn Smith online.
Yep, I'm here if you can hear me.
Yeah, sure, Glenn. So take the work as read. There's some maps on the screen of all the work, so just some highlights, and then we'll hand over to Councillor Swiggs to have a few comments as well. Kia ora.
Thank you. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. The very good notes they've put there together. Interesting listening to the other groups. I think it'd be fair to say our zone wasn't overwhelmed with applications for the money, but we certainly had a focus on trying to support ongoing projects. One of the challenges that everyone's aware of is around these projects aren't necessarily one-off or work that can be done within a single year and done and dusted. They take time, and especially in regards to native plantings and some of the restoration things, planting's only the first step. There's work needed to be done to look after the plantings and for a period of time to get them well established. A classic example of that is the support we've given to the Opahi Lagoon plant maintenance through the Arawhenua nurseries. A lot of work been done, some more planting being done, but really maintaining the work that already had been done. Burke's Pass, the same as enhancing and adding on to work already done. The Pig Hunting Creek was a late application in the year, but quite exciting because it's an area that there hasn't been a lot done, and it's of the environment there that they're looking to restore isn't one that's often highlighted. It's not a wide open lagoon like the Waitarakau or the river mouths. It's very a short catchment with salt marsh type plants and whatnot. So a bit different, but again building on work that the private landowner has started themselves. So looking to leverage off work already been done and keep it going. So taking that long term approach. I'd also like to just comment. One thing that has been really good this year with the OTOP Zone Committee is we've had very energetic councillors involved. Councillor Swiggs from ECAN, Councillor Pai from Timaru District Council, Councillor Guerin from Mackenzie District Council, and Councillor Kane from the Waimea District Council have been very, very engaged, and I've found it heartening and quite invigorating, the robust debates and input the councillors have. So it's really good collaboration between the various councils with the public appointed members. So it's it has brought some more energy to the committee, which we desperately need. So thank you to those. Yeah, I suppose that's all I've got to say. Just open to questions. Thank you.
Kia ora, Glenn, thank you for that. I'll just hand over to one of those councillors you praised. He's got a big smile on his face at the moment. The Councillor Wicks.
No, I've just got a big smile on my face because me and my tahu colleague are having intertribal warfare over here, and Joe's right in the middle of it all. Joe is like he's out Mount Taranaki, actually. I'll put it that way. Thanks, Glenn. And yeah, no, as you said, it is great to, those relationships well, the zone committees are the one thing that I think do come out of the zone committees that I would like to, wherever things go, is to keep and to enhance, because that debate, that we do have around the issues that we face is probably the biggest value that we find out of what we do. And I do want to sort of single you out, Glenn, and also our Deputy Chair for the work that you both are doing. You're really busy in your farm world, and everybody's doing their thing, and you guys are always there when we need you to be there. So that's been really helpful, and that leadership that you guys have done in the zone committee is to be commended. So thanks for that. And as Glenn has said, just councillors, we had a really robust debate a couple of months back about where we would spend the money that we had and what we would prioritise it on. We really had the debate around, we had a situations where do we give money to people who want to plant things, plants, or do we actually focus on keeping and restoring, well, not restoring, but maintaining what we've already got? External funders obviously like to, plant things, and they can say, look, we've planted 10,000 trees and whatnot. But we've seen down in some of these zones, and especially if you look at the photo, the Opahi Lagoon, that was at risk of losing a lot of jobs for nature. Money that went into planting those plants were at risk of not surviving because there was no money to maintain that. So we actually spent quite a considerable amount of the budget to maintain that. And that is exactly what we've also done, prioritised for the Burke's Pass. Like Burke's Pass, that restoration there is really amazing at the headwaters of that water body. And that could keep going forever. You could just keep putting money into planting more plants and plants and more plants. But actually enhancing what's there is more important than and making sure that stays, and then giving it the chance to actually really thrive is something that OTOP is probably looking to prioritise in that space. So I'm really looking forward to where Pig Hunting Creek Lagoon, the work that Di Lucas is going to lead in that, designing that up. She's involved in that to look at what can be done there. And then the implementation strategy, there's a small amount of money that was put aside for implementation. So we're really focused on doing things and maintaining what we've already got. So, and it was a really cool debate actually when we had that. There was all sorts of different opinions flying, but it was really cool to settle on one place. But so yeah, thanks for everything you said, Glenn, and I look forward to the debates about where we go next.
Kia ora, Councillor Sweets, Councillor Ward.
Glenn, I'd just like to congratulate you, and I won't talk too long because Stephen's basically said everything I want to say, that you've done a fantastic job, and your passion and enthusiasm for your job has been amazing, and just thanks to you and the committee for all the hard work you've done.
Thank you. Good, Councillor Ward. Councillor Burns.
Kia ora, thank you for that. Very interesting. There's a certain irony to the photo of Councillor Sweets when you talk about being energetic and vigorous, look, I'm really interested in the sorry about that. I'm really interested in the dung beetle trial. It sounds really interesting and exciting. Has that commenced yet? Can you let me know, please? Kia ora.
It has. The farmers involved, landowners which are funding the other 50%, had the opportunity to obtain beetles before all the funding was approved. So they took a punt and went ahead of themselves to get the first instalment. So they are on the ground now. It is a long-term project, as from the timeframes involved, but it'll be very interesting to see how that does come out. And a big part of that project will be keeping track of and monitoring over the years, and Mana Whenua have certainly expressed a strong interest in being involved in that, so we can all learn from it.
Kia ora, thanks for that. Really interesting. Councillor McKenzie.
Look, I was just going to comment really on your comments about the importance of actually looking after stuff which the work that's already been done. And I know from the Ashburton River last weekend was a local enthusiast was making his job to go up and down all the plantings that have been done by various groups up and back the Ashburton River and the Ashburton Walkway and make sure that stuff, because there was not old men there and told you that the guys was calculated and use the waste of that. Good choice. Good choosing.
Any further questions for Glenn? No? Oh, Glenn, thank you for your time coming in. We really like the pictures that are there and the work that the zone is doing. And for me personally, the Pig Hunting Creek Lagoon, it's just below Uwha Point there, which I spent a bit of time in the water, but I'll have somewhere else to visit just down the road from there. So once again, thank you for your time, Glenn. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Moving on to the probably the best zone in the room, isn't it, Nick? The upper Waitaki. Unfortunately, and then concurred by Councillor Tuckle, Matt Bayless is not available, so Murray will provide a short overview, and then I'll hand over to Councillor Ward to have extra comment.
Kia ora. Matt, unfortunately, and Adriana Theobald, who's the Deputy Chair, both have work commitments today, which means they couldn't be here, but Matt has provided, we appreciate the opportunity just to provide sort of 4 key points just in support of the applications and the work that the committee's done this year. So just noting through Matt's points now, the Ahuriri Community Catchment Group is the means by which we will address the decline in water quality occurring in the Ahuriri arm of Lake Benmore and associated tributaries. This important farmer collaboration group needs ongoing support to achieve the collective action required to avoid further environmental degradation. This is the most important issue for the Upper Waitaki region. Second point, the native vegetation demonstration plots planned for Twizel and the Marama are an important beginning of a planned ongoing collaboration with Arawhenua Nursery. Demonstrating to the community the viability of Indigenous planting is a first step towards native revegetation of scale. Third point, on Love Our Lakes brand, which is now a well-recognised icon for the Upper Waitaki region, and the Zone Committee with the support of the ECAN Communications team have established a vehicle for engaging with our geographically dispersed communities. Building on our modest digital Facebook presence will greatly increase the quality, timeliness and impact of information shared with our community. To be successful, this initiative needs ongoing support and funding, and it's available to the Mackenzie, Waitaki and Waimate District Councils as well as ECAN. There is much more value available from leveraging the Love Our Lakes brand profile, and to access that value we need ongoing funding and support. And Matt's final point is, looking ahead, the Upper Waitaki Zone Committee needs dedicated support to progress many worthwhile initiatives and projects across our large and diverse landscape and communities. The support we do get from ECAN staff is good and we appreciate it. However, it is obvious to the committee that the good people that support us are also supporting many other groups and activities and do not have the capacity to meet the needs of the Upper Waitaki region. So that's, I guess, the key points that Matt wanted to share with you all, and I can hand it back to you. Kia ora, Murray, thank you for that. I would make points, and Councillor Ward.
I'd just like to reiterate some of the things that Murray's just said, and thanks to Matt and Adriana and the other people on the Zone Committee for their passion and Mackenzie. We all know it's quite a fragile environment. I'd also like to note Councillor Sutton's input into the past. I know he was a little bit miffed when I took his drive away because he couldn't stop at the pie shop and buying more pies. You know, and the zoning committee's, you know, definitely giving us more visibility in our area, and you know, and it is on the tourist route, so everyone who is on the zoning committee is very passionate about the area and the environment, and they want to maintain this passion going forward. We don't know where that space is leading, and I'd just like to say thanks to all those who've been involved in the past, and thanks to our team staff for their support.
Kia ora, Nick, thanks for that. Councillor Burns.
Kia ora, thanks, Mr. Chair. Hey, look, this is great, really good. I'm particularly excited to see the Waimati High School Shade House project. I'm wondering, Murray, are you able to give some detail on what sort of numbers they expect to grow? I see at the bottom of the, oh, sorry, sorry, am I on the wrong page? My apologies. I'll ask you the same question very shortly. Thank you. Kia ora.
Councillor Burns, you are lost, are you? Geographically.
Yes, my apologies for that, Mr. Chair. I just got really excited about that project and moved ahead.
So moving on, just to acknowledge, I like the work that's going on for 8.1 Minda's Conservation Group and Local Control has been on the development of the Canterbury Regional Pest Management Plan, Rule 64.23D, trying to get rid of making lupins a pest to Canterbury. One thing I despise is driving down State Highway 8 and seeing all those lupins flowering. So hopefully this work that this zone committee is doing, along with Whaka, what are they called now? Whakakapi, spraying those lupins to get rid of them. Thank you for that. Kia ora, Murray. Moving down the river, paddling a waka with our Councillor East in that waka down to the lower Waitaki. Moving along, we have Victoria online. Kia ora, Victoria. Thank you for finding time to come online. I'm not too sure how long you've been on. Just the highlights of the lower Waitaki, and then we'll hand over to Councillor East for a few comments and then questions. Well done.
Kia ora, thank you. I just thought that I would focus on sort of a couple of the key projects we've been involved with. I think that map gives a really good idea of the geographical spread of it through the zone. I think when you look at that, one of the things that sticks out to me is that we've managed to support a really good mix of larger long-term projects as well as smaller, more sort of boots on the ground community projects, which has been really neat. So a couple of the larger ones, one was the Waiau River and tributaries willow control. So the Waiau Wainono catchment group have already done a massive amount of work in the lower reaches of the Waiau River. And back in 2022, the zone committee gave them some funding to develop their strategy. And so it's been good to be able to give them some further support. This year, they're looking into the upper reaches of the river, and particularly in terms of willow control for improving the quality and quantity of water, and that'll have some spin-offs for reduced risk to infrastructure as well. And there's been really good landowner buy-in into that, and I think Dave might correct me if I'm wrong. I think that some of the landowners had been doing some of this work anyway, so they're pretty excited to be able to have a really coordinated community take on it, which has been really neat to see. So I'm looking forward to seeing that all happen. The second larger project that we supported was the Hekataramea Sustainability Collective. So I don't know whether people are familiar with that project or not. It has had quite a bit of publicity, but the amount that community's been able to achieve in their catchment is unreal, particularly in terms of community engagement. They've really had the schools on board, and it's always a really cool project to visit. We've had a couple of visits there as a zone committee. So the funding this year was to help with the coordination of their weed control project, just to make sure that continues and they keep making that good progress they have made, and to help them with the administration support too, because that's become quite a big beast, that project. So yeah, looking forward to watching that continue to succeed. And then just another in the same neighbourhood, but another project that was probably a bit more boots on the ground was the Kurau wetland. So that's a really the Kōrā communities really got in behind that and achieved a lot just by getting stuck in, really. So the zone committee funding allowed them to clear, they've already cleared an area of an area of like weeds essentially, and done quite a bit of planting. And so the funding has allowed them to increase that area really. So I mean that gives you a bit of a look at some of the things that we've supported. Yeah, is there any questions or anything you think I might have missed?
Kia ora, Victoria, thanks for that. We'll hand over to Councillor East for a few comments.
Thank you, and just elaborating on some of Victoria's comments there, I think I'd just like to focus on 3 of the 2, 3 and 4 on the map, and just highlight the huge amount of work that's been achieved by local volunteers in the Dunfern wetland. And the Kōrā wetland is quite an amazing project that's coordinated a lot of local volunteers in restoring that wetland. One particular contractor farmer has put in a huge amount of time clearing willows there, and I think it'll be a fantastic facility once it's fully completed. What the beauty of those 2 projects really is that they actually fall along the ocean to cycling trail. Yeah, and that track goes through both of those projects, and it's certainly an enhancement for that tourist facility. The Hakatira Mea Sustainability Collective, I'd just like to go on record saying what an amazing group those people are. The work that they've achieved, and I went up recently to a launch that they had for their catchment management plan. It's a superb piece of work, and I feel that it could be a blueprint for a lot of catchment management planning coming forward. We are sort of transitioning a little bit more, or quite a lot more, to catchment management approach to a lot of our work, and the document they produced is nothing short of outstanding, and I would consider it being an excellent blueprint for other catchments to look at to manage their work. So, there's some great work going on with Lower Waitaki. That area is probably a little bit of a shame that the Waitaki River has to be cut in half because there are synergies upstream and downstream. So it'll be interesting to see how the management of that particular river falls with our restructuring. Certainly there's a huge influence with hydroelectric and other uses of the river. So I think going forward, I think that's enough, and just like to acknowledge the zone committee down there. They're all very passionate people in their environment.
Got Councillor East, thank you for those comments. And I'll hand over to Councillor Edge.
Thanks, Victoria, and I agree with Councillor East about the Whakatau management plan through Y Connection. We saw a glimpse of that at the Kaikoura Zone Committee, who are about to get underway with a similar sort of project for the zone. And I understand the Waimakariri's also had similar sort of resource database for part of Waimakariri. My question really is about the resource database. Is that enabling the collective to assess future priorities for improvement going forward? Has that been a really useful way of identifying things?
my understanding is yes, that's been useful. I know that they're continuing to probably work on that. Some of that support that we've given them with administration and that sort of thing has probably allowed the people that are the driving force behind that to spend a bit more time on that, really identifying those future priorities. And apologies, Dave might be able to add more comment to that than I can, or Councillor East.
Yeah, I think you probably covered it quite well there, Victoria. I think, yeah, they've got this integrated catchment management plan, but I think it's probably an evolving plan as they go forward. And Councillor East was at the presentation. He made that a comment more.
Thanks for coming on, David. Good to see you there. And you in Te Muruai, David Moore. Yeah.
Yep, down here in the big smoke.
Thanks for coming on. We'll move on to Councillor Burns and then Councillor Karakia.
Kia ora, thanks, Mr. Chair. Again, wonderful. This is great reading through. It's good to see our communities taking the lead and being supported by community members in an agency supported way. I have a couple of questions. One is, I'm very excited about the Waimate High School Shade House project. I'm just wondering, do you have any sort of indicative idea of the numbers that they're hoping to put through the school program of growing homes?
I haven't got it in front of me, I'm sorry. Probably one thing to note on that project was, I believe that was linked to, we've got there's 2 planting projects in the Waimate Gorge and the Waimate Creek there as well, which some of those plants were allocated to, but I just can't remember the specifics of the numbers.
Thank you. That's fine. And the other question would be, I'm just curious about the biozone. Can you explain Waimate High's biozone project? Do you know?
I only very briefly from talking to the people there. That's basically as a group, an environmental group in the school. Senior students mainly, I think, and apparently there's only one boy. They're all girls. Very enthusiastic about learning about propagating plants and being able to improve initially around the school and then further afield, having a lot more native planting. And so it will continue on as the years go through the school, that the children will go through this little nursery they're setting up in the shade house. They'll do eco-sourcing of seeds, and they don't want to get too big, but they will donate some plants around the community. Waimate's quite cool. There's a lot of different groups. There's the Trackways group, there's Kelsey's Bush, Studdenbush, the Eco Sanctuary, and all those groups are kind of looking at how they can work together. So integrating the school into that will be really cool.
Thank you. That's awesome. I might just say, perhaps you might want to put the group in touch with Rangiora High School in North Canterbury. They have an extremely strong environmental group called the Blue Planet, and it might be a really good connect between the 2 different schools. Thank you. Kia ora.
Thank you for that, Councillor Burns. Councillor Karakia.
Kia ora, Victoria. Mihi Whakakapi. Hey, I actually listened to the Upper Waitaki and also now the Lower Waitaki reports. Again, want to vocal for my colleagues that have actually spoken really positively around the work that's been done, and I really do support that. At the moment, as the 2 Ngaitahu councillors are actually meeting our runanga, and we're actually doing what we call visions and outcomes, with specific runanga. And the one that's really interesting, we're heading to Waiau actually next week, and we're having that hui actually on the Thursday. I know that with the Upper Waitaki, you've got John Henry as the mana whenua representative on that zone committee. And then who is your one on the lower Waikato?
It's Michael. Have we got two, Dave? It was
Yeah, we have Suzanne Eddington from Waiau. We have Michael McMillan from Arawhenua, and we have a vacancy at the moment for Mooraki. So we don't have anyone there since Kieran Reid was our last one there.
Okay, so thank you for that. So what is the relationship like then, you know, with mana whenua? You know, on, and I take it that the last speaker was from the upper Waikato. Yeah, cool, Mark. Yeah. Right. So, what is the relationship like with mana whenua in regards to the Water Zone Committee?
From my perspective, and apologies, I've had to get Dave to jump in and help me with this a little bit because I've only taken over this role at quite short notice. We actually have all of our meetings at the Waiau marae and have worked very hard on those relationships. I've really enjoyed getting to know Michael and Suzanne on my time on the zone committee. And I'd like to think that those relationships have been reasonably good. We also have had a bit to do with Moeraki, and we supported a project of theirs last year as well. So that might partially answer your question, but Dave might be able to add a little more to that.
Yeah, kia ora, Victoria, thank you. Regarding Moeraki, yes, we gave some money, actually 2 years in a row, we've given money to the Furia to Waitaki project, so restoring Mahingakai area near Duntroon, and I think we do have a good relationship with Waiau. We do, as Victoria said, try to have our meetings there. Sometimes we can't, it's conflicts, like next month we won't be. But we also copy them on our correspondence, and Trudy Heath, when she's available, who's the CE, I think, she's sometimes attends our meetings online, so she's also welcome. So I think, yeah, we've got a good relationship, and the committee's always saying they're really keen to support projects for Waiau.
Okay, thank you, kia ora for that. So, yeah, I also acknowledge you've got a number of runanga actually on the upper and lower Waikaki, particularly Arawhenua, Waiau and Moeraki, and trying to sort of manage those relationships is always, in some ways, I wouldn't say, yeah, maybe challenging, but it's always work in progress, which is kind of what I'm hearing. So thank you for that, because that's really important when we go there next Thursday, and actually start talking about how we can continue, you know, and continue to develop the relationships with the water zone committees, and particularly, and we acknowledge too that, you know, you try wherever you can, like meeting at the marae and all of that, but I just think I got a little bit of a feeling that we've got to get that balance right, actually, from possibly mana whenua side. So thank you for all your work, and particularly the support of mana whenua as well. Kia ora to you both, Ngami.
Kia ora, Councillor Korako, thank you for that. And just reiterate those words to you, Victoria, coming on today. I thought you were going to be the last zone, but we're leaving the best to last. I thought the Upper Waitaki was the best, but Pātaka Rākei Houti Bank Peninsula will be the best. But Victoria, thank you for your time, finding time, and Dave as well. Thank you both for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your day. You can stay online if you'd like, but otherwise, kia pai tō roa, have a good day. Hopefully, Gina online now by phone. We new technology. We're using an iPhone. Is it?
No, it's on today. Hopefully you can.
Can Victoria hear me? Oh, did she hear everything?
I've been online. I've been listening to the meeting. I'm just having trouble with my microphone. So hopefully you can hear me without too much feedback.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So yeah, thank you for hearing from us today. You'll see in our report that we allocated the year's $75,000 budget to 5 projects. from applications totaling $185,000. So like many of the other zones, we were over allocated. The Wairewa Catchment Group, Whakaora, Aitiwai or Pātaka, is our key project with the majority of our budget allocated to it. I'll cover the reasons for this, but first I thought I'd briefly go over the other projects that received funding from us. Wairewa Native Planting received $4,000, which supports ongoing Environment Canterbury-led work on the tributaries of Te Roto or Wairewa Lake Forsyth. Our community spaces received $3,000 towards restoration of the lower reaches of the Waiau stream. This is to support long-term ongoing work led by the Waiau community. Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust was awarded $5,000 towards operational costs. The work of the Conservation Trust aligns strongly with our objectives. They are a key community group on Banks Peninsula, and they've established a really high level of trust with landowners. They run many fantastic programs, such as Pest Free Banks Peninsula. They're working towards 1,000 hectares areas of protected indigenous forest, and they work with landowners on covenants and biodiversity plans. But they often find it difficult to get operational funding, which is why we've chosen to support them in this way. Sharing Practical Knowledge got $5,000. This is a joint project with Christchurch West Melton Zone Committee, Whakaora Healthy Harbour and Rapaki Runanga, and its purpose is to create a toolbox of effective solutions to manage erosion and sediment, specific to the highly erodible loose soils in Port Hills and Whakarapo, Littleton Harbour. So coming back to Whakaora Aitiwai or Pātaka, the Wairewa Catchment Group, which was awarded $58,000. This project was initiated by Zone Committee member Ben Matheson and very much supported by the committee, as we feel catchment groups are a good way to effectively support landowners to make improvements to land management practices and water quality, supporting a community-led approach while providing funding and support to help ensure success. While our strong endorsement of this project may favour one catchment, we are comfortable with this, as the committee have in the past felt that focusing our resources on a small number of catchments will be more effective, as we've previously been concerned with projects being too small and piecemeal if they're scattered across the peninsula, especially as water quality improvements are often not realised unless the whole waterway is looked after te utiki tai from the mountains to the sea. We're also aware that best buy-in from landowners often comes from word of mouth and by developing relationships one-on-one, and this is difficult to do when spread thin over a large area. The committee feel that Wairewa Little River is a good catchment to work in because all of the large landowners are on board. The Wairewa Runanga are working with them in partnership. It is an active and close-knit community which already has a large number of community group initiatives, as well as the community-supported targeted rate that is being used to reduce flooding and sediment. And the catchment is important, with Te Roto or Wairewa Lake Forsyth being the only large lake on Banks Peninsula. Wairewa has previously been identified as a priority catchment forward by the Zone Committee. The lake is one of the most degraded large lakes in the country, and significant work has been done with the canal overhead of the lake, as well as the significant ongoing work on stabilising and reshaping and planting the banks of the main tributaries and removing willows both to reduce flooding in Little River Township and to reduce phosphorus-rich sediment flowing into the lake. Water quality is improving, but it's still classed as very poor. It's for those reasons that the Zone Committee is strongly supporting the new Whakaora Aitiwai Te Pātaka catchment group in Wairewa Little River. And just given that this is our only opportunity to speak to you over the year, I also wanted to take the time to comment on the Water Zone Committee review. I'm pleased to learn that the Mayoral Forum are committed to supporting local leadership in freshwater management, but many of our committee members feel a bit disenfranchised, as if the review is geared towards scaling back or dispensing with zone committees altogether. Feedback from committee members is quite mixed, with some feeling strongly that water zone committees should be maintained and strengthened, with adjustments to ensure they're fit for purpose, with others feeling that they're currently not that effective with little ability to create real change. And that's often related to funding, basically. My view is that water zone committees are what you make them. They can be very effective if they're set up well and well resourced, and can take on a number of roles, including support of local community groups, but also an engagement, education, the regulatory space, and advocacy to both local and regional councils and central government. Overall, I think it's important to have a group that acts as a bridge between council and landowners, much like community boards do for city councils. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Kia ora, Gina. Thank you for the report and also those comments at the end, because the next paper, 8.3, you'll be discussing what you just raised. Councillor DJ is not here. Southwest, it's your Takiwa. Would you like to have any comments?
I just really enjoyed what I have been to a couple of the zone committee meetings, particularly around the health issues in the water in Whakatau. It's always a pleasure going to see the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee, because they are really committed, and it's really great to see the project happening. I really should expect more. I'd love to go back out and see Waiau, which is a project that I looked at when I was in my master's project. So it'd be great to see where that's going to, and it's great to hear that the water quality is starting to improve.
Kia ora, Councillor Southwest. Councillor Burns, and then Councillor Cook.
Kia ora. Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks very much. Awesome stuff. Again, I feel like I'm just saying the same words, but it's again really refreshing to see what our communities are doing out there. I do have a question of clarification though. So the funding that goes for 58,000 on behalf of the Waiau Mahanga Kai catchment group, is that to identify areas that need improving, or is it below in the report it talks about some of the remedial work that may be an outcome of it? So is it can you explain that, please?
Over to you, Gina.
Yes, so it's for both. The first sort of steps will be obviously to sort of develop their group objectives and goals, and then they're doing some having some mapping done that will identify issues, and then also to do some physical works. So the idea was that a lot of the landowners would remain more engaged if they could see some action on the ground, some early wins. So that's likely to be some fencing projects. While we are at the end of the financial year now, the physical works haven't been undertaken yet, as it has taken them a bit longer to get off the ground, but they are in the pipeline, and that work will be done shortly, hopefully.
Kia ora, thanks for that answer, and that's refreshing to hear. One of the things that we often get here is in regards to funds that are available is sometimes people are concerned if it doesn't actually end up in a tangible outcome on the ground. So thank you for that. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Councillor Karakia. Kia ora, Gina. Nuk Karakia here, Naikovi Councillor. Throughout your presentation, you actually are talking about landowners, high-level trust with landowners. Does that also include mana whenua?
Yes, absolutely. So the Wairewa Runanga are in partnership with the landowners on this community catchment group. So they're playing a very active role there. So most of the sort of action and the work is yes, it's focused on the large landowners in the catchment, but the Runanga are very much in there and a big part of that project.
Okay, kia ora for that. Supplementary. I also know that you understand around Te Pātako Rakai Hautu, which is really unique, and the fact is that it's got the most papatupu runanga actually out of any area actually across the Ikan Takiwa, namely Kokararata, Taumotu, Rapaki and Waiau. And I took on board what you said about the feeling that you ones have actually, particularly around how you're valued as water zone committees or water zone committee singular. One of the things that we're doing in the visions and outcomes, I'm not sure whether you were on when we were talking about myself and Yayan, who are the two Ngaitahi councillors, meeting kanohi to kanohi face to face with the 10 Papatipa Runanga within the Ikan Takiwa. And basically, this visions and outcomes, it's really important that we get the feedback from them as to whether they believe that the water zone committees are actually, one, very effective, which is what I'm hearing here in these presentations, or are they past their use by date? Is there a kind of a catchment group that could replace them or something like that? So you know the corridor's out there, but thank you, because what you've done, you've highlighted a lot of the great work you know, that you guys are doing on Pātako Rākai Hotu, and so have the others. So that's an observation, but the question is, you talk about the three of them. Is Kokorarata actually heavily involved with this?
Kokorarata don't actually have a rep on the committee at the moment, and yeah, so they, as far as I know, there hasn't really been involvement from Kokorarata. The catchment group, though, is focused in the Wairewa catchment, so while Kokorarata is over the hill, I'm not sure where the boundaries are exactly or where they overlap or not, but yeah, we could certainly get in touch with them to involve them if that is the desire. I'm sure Wairewa would be happy with that.
Actually, I'm a little bit confused now because you talk about Banks Peninsula. Yeah.
The catchment group. Sorry, I'll just find my notes to make sure I get it right. The name of the group, catchment group, is Whakaora Aitewai or Pātaka, but they are working within the Wairewa catchment. That is the focus. It's just in that catchment.
Kia ora, Gina. I think Councillor Koraka was talking about the Banks Peninsula overall regarding CWMS and kind of outcomes, etc., not just the catchment group itself.
So yeah, we are very lucky to have Hurunui in our zone, and we definitely appreciate the contributions on the committee, and it's great, I think, to have more than one representative. I don't know how the other committees find it with when they have few Runanga in their zone, but I think the reps themselves probably appreciate having more than one person there as well to represent those Runanga views. And at the same time, we generally, or at least for the last several years, have usually had sort of a rep from 3 of the 4 at a time, just as people change and move on. There is often a gap.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it, really do. I've just been reminded by my colleague here that lunch is coming. So, but anyway. It's actually something we can take to, you know, those running around the visions and outcomes. So thank you. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Gina. Thank you for your time coming on today, and also for your comments regarding the future of CWMS and where it goes. As I said in paper 8.3, the next one we'll be discussing that, so you can stay online if you'd like. But once again, thank you for your time and talking about Pātaka Rākai Hotu Banks Peninsula. Kia ora. That's all the zone committee's done. Went a bit longer than I was hoping. Just to let you know that Hurunui, Waiau, Uwha, water zone, etc. will be talking in paper 8.4, and that next steps, CWMS zone committees will now await the outcomes of Environment Canterbury Long-Term Plan and also the review of CWMS zone committee requested by the Canterbury Middle Forum, which we'll discuss in the next paper. It's currently underway. So we have our resolutions on the screen there, that we received the update and also received the level of services 11.3, the attachment 8.2.1. Yeah, Councillor Burns moved. Second is going to be Councillor Robinson. Any comments? None. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye, carried. Tilda. Well, marathon. Well, as it is the last zone committee, so it's probably quite timely that we needed to hear from all those zone committees and hear those questions. And I thought quite valuable, even though we're going to be short of lunch time. So moving on to 8.3, and can we ask? I think it's bringing Dan to the table, please. Yeah. I just want to thank the team for the maps. I think it's really awesome to be able to see things in context, and yeah, it's really helpful. And I've done some stats on the back. 68 projects, roughly a third of them planting, a third of them pest and weed, a whole bunch around research and monitoring, fencing. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Kia ora. So we've got 8.3 update regarding the zone committee review. We have Dan here. Dan, is Martin coming up as well? He's online. Oh, he's on leave. Okay. Over to you, Dan. Take the paper as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm here in place of Martin and Cam. So just as you'll see, the paper in front of you is around the Zones Committee review, which really kicked off in March this year. And Martin's been going out to talk to zone committees and Ruranga, and of course we had the Mural Forum workshop on the 31st of May, and this paper provides insights from the consultation to date with the community and also from the Mural Forum. We asked some specific questions around their long-term commitment to the future of local leadership of water in Canterbury, and the insights are all in the paper. I won't go through them in detail, and I guess the key thing is that the next steps for this are that we are doing the analysis on what we've gathered from the community. It's great to hear from Gina, the likes of Gina today, about the positive things that are going on in the community and everything that we're seeing today here as well. But we're trying to take a little bit of a dispassionate kind of objective approach to the zone committee review, such that we've got some information and advice that we can bring back to you over the next few months as this committee evolves into what it evolves into. We'll keep you abreast of what's going on, take it to the Mural Forum in November, but ensure that we're bringing that advice to you in the context of not just the zone committee review, but the future of water leadership at a local level in Canterbury. So that's the anticipation. Martin keeps reminding me, hey Dan, keep the scope tight on this, and we are, but we're also thinking very much about what does the future hold for water leadership in Canterbury. So that's it from me. I hope you've taken any questions.
Kia ora, Dan. Any questions, clarifications? Yeah, yeah, thank you, Dan. And yeah, I was involved in the Mural Forum discussion, and I think those points that you've put there on 26 and 27 are really good. Definitely sums up what we heard from the mayors that day. Definitely some support for ongoing local leadership. What that looks like is probably the challenge for our team here to sort of articulate that and come up with some new ways of doing things or different ways of doing things. I think what I'm interested in is the next steps. I know that, of course, we've got there on number 15, clause 15, about the process, update to the Mural Forum, and then the report. In terms of a workshop for council, when are we thinking about that? Is that going to happen before August or November?
Yeah, we're looking to come back to you at least twice before we go back to the Mural Forum, and we're anticipating that we'll cover the analysis of what's been looked at to date, but also trying to bring that to a bit more of a strategic forward-looking view about where to next as well. We're very conscious that we don't want to go down this binary path of, if not zone committees, then it's catchment groups. There's a lot more to dig into in terms of the role that zone committees have played in, particularly in having that local discussion and that evolving into planning rules and regulations and so forth, and the challenges that zone committees have faced, and then going into implementation. We've seen today a lot of examples of implementation, but it's always challenging to allocate money and allocate responsibility into the community, and we've just got to find the right dynamic, the right way in which to do that. In many respects, the anecdote back from catchment groups is Environment Canterbury gets involved, they don't want to see it, but at the same time, we still have to have a thread of communication into the community that says, hey, this is what's required and these are the challenges faced. And sometimes that creates tension, but often from that tension we get action and agreement as well. And I think that's something that we have to explore a little bit in the future, is not just catchment groups, but the idea that we have to create some tension in the community to often find solutions, and that's what part of our role is. So we've got to look at how that plays out.
Thanks, Dan. So I'm thinking that maybe we think about something in July or early August as the next step for us as council, and then maybe after, between then and November option. But thank you. I know July's like on us, but yeah.
I could acting chair, you notice on 15 with the little on page 45, kind of has the little outline, so July, August, weekly update. So yeah, it'll come through, I'll take it back through there. Is that right, Dan? Yeah, that's right. Councillor Kora.
Kia ora, Dan. I think this, obviously this is really good, it's needed. I just wondered if the significance of Whakatau Runanga is really understood in this whole thing, because when you actually talk to Whakatau Runanga, so you talk to the ones, the first one that got blown apart, which was actually Hurunui, was it? Okay. Hurunui, yeah. So you talk to the Runanga actually that were involved with that one, and then there'll be others that have actually a lot of kind of input. And I'm just wondering if Te Pai Herenga is actually the body that you need to be engaging with. No disrespect to them, but I mean, Te Roki Tuia, and also I know this is kind of operationally at the moment, but it'd be really good to get an oversight as a Ngaitahi councillor as well. And it's definitely something that we're actually talking about in the visions and outcomes. Because I just think that there is some real issues in some areas with mana whenua around the Water Zone Committee. So I don't know, I think maybe our chair, Yayan, as a Ngaitahi councillor, you could probably add something great. But I do think that there is some issues and they need to be actually brought out. And I don't think that that's the only, that forum there is the one, maybe they can feed into it, but you're going to get more actually, I think, from Roki Tuia for what we're getting, what we're going to actually be taking out of the visions and outcomes that we're doing across the Karakia. Anyway.
But Councillor Kuraku, yeah, I think they'll be part of our tour around the Runaka. Will be some of those questions about CWMS, and then probably through to Roki Tuia as well through the chairs.
Just note too, that what also the team did is they also had a workshop with past and present zone committee, Runanga zone committee members. That's a wider group of everyone who's represented Runanga on zone committees, including some of those from Hurunui, Hurunui Waiau one. So so it wasn't just debating it. They actually went to the reps themselves and they've worked with them, which is a good forum. We used to have during the zone the CWMS, we used to have regular hui with all the representatives. So it's a collection of all those groups. So that feedback will be coming in too, or has come in. But I do take the point that I think Roki Tuia is a place where we should have a discussion as well before the end in November.
Dan, anything else to add to that? No. We'll go Councillor Southworth and Councillor Swiggs.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm interested in, so when we've heard from the various zone committees, there's sort of like a different amount, like for example, Waimakariri talks about having over 100% potential allocation of their budget, their annual action budget. And then another icon, which is somebody said, we could only just about get our funding out. And I'm just wondering whether, and then also in your report, there's some differences around people's perceptions of how effective the zone committees are, how they need to operate and function. Are we, going to be identifying, is there an opportunity here to be doing different solutions for different parts? Because it feels like we've tried to do something across the region in each zone that's just the same for everyone. And I think over the time it feels that actually there's more variation in how they might work. Is there going to be that level of flexibility that as a council or councils that have these own committees, like is there likely to be a mechanism to enable that variation at the local level, like what we've seen with Hurunui? Or are we going to be looking at trying to be just the same everywhere? And I note that we also had previously the regional committee, which was able to also come in with some additional funding and focus on regional scale type work, and that's gone. And so that sort of loses some of that potential for actually honing in on some of those really big, significant regional scale projects, which, you know, with the sort of community section in at the regional scale as well. So I'm just interested to see where are you feeling like things are going, how much opportunity is there for some variation?
There is definitely a thread of feedback from either mayors or community that we should look at bespoke solutions, and we just got to be conscious of the council that as we vary our approach across the region, how much complexity that adds to our work. So it's a dilemma. It's something we do need to explore further, and I think there's very much an appetite for that.
Kia ora, thanks, Dan. Councillor Swift. No, I won't ask too much because I'll probably look at seeing what comes out of it. The one thing that I just wanted to I found interesting was, you know, a lot of the feedback was again effectiveness and purpose was coming out from the feedback that you've got. The community voice and accountability was another big thing, the role of territorial authorities, and the mayors wanting more involvement from their TAs, which is interesting, but how that looks like, I have no idea. But the one thing that I wanted to really look at was the measurement of success. I think that was one of the biggest things that from this report that I kind of was like, okay, so we got the reports today and these groups have dished out the money, but what does behind that the CWMS? What is the measurements of success that we're seeing from these groups and from these areas? So that's the one bit that I think I'm missing, and I don't know exactly what that may look like for the future of this, but it is in the report. And then does that link into purpose, and then can that link into the TAs and having more involvement in what they're trying to achieve? So I mean, I think it's more of a question that doesn't have an answer, but it's an area that I think we should be focused.
I think zone committee's purpose, because they're a joint committee, must come from above. I mean, they've been a committee that's been convened to do a job. Often when you look at other councils, they convene committees for short periods of time to run events or to manage a 2-year process around some kind of initiative, and then they dissolve. And I think we need to look at what we are actually asking of our committees. We demanded a lot of effort and time and energy from our communities and our committee members over the period of developing zone implementation programs and then developing the intensive process of what a rule framework should look like in each of those zones. And that was hugely engaging, but also hugely exhausting. And the earlier review of the zone committees reflected that there was a post-planning blues where zone committees were like exhausted from that process and were challenged by how to go into implementation. I think in terms of coming back to your point about measures, I think that the targets must be held at a strategic level. I think that's what the Mural Forum is suggesting in their endorsement here, saying we're happy to hold the strategy, but we also realise that there's a need for local leadership. So how we cascade those high-level targets into localised initiatives is very important, and I think that does speak to how we give them a sense of purpose, so to speak.
Kia ora, Dan. Thank you for that, and thank you for your work on this paper and kind of thank you.
I think the other thing that with the Mural Forum discussion that I already highlighted to the mayors is that there is more planning coming, but the RPS is one that we're in now, but there's obviously the work we've supported through the long-term plan process. So there will be stuff for zone committees or catchment committees to do in the future in relation to our plans. While there hasn't been for the last few years, there is still more coming. So that is an important reason to have something there to help with those processes, as well as the stuff in our RPS about the FMUs and the freshwater management units and trying to link to that. So I think that is really important. And they acknowledge that as well. Thank you.
Just before we go to Councillor McKenzie, I'll just move that we extend our time for lunch. I'll just put the resolution up on the screen. Second chair will move, seconder, Southworth, all those in favour can say aye. Aye, sure to carry. So quick, go, Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, just to be quite quick, Dan, you're talking about the zone implementation plans, and then Craig's talking about the RPS. If you actually read the RPS, there's no recognition implementing zone implementation plans in the RPS. And at a workshop that we had that January, Monday, Tuesday, yes, working with zone committee saying, well, what's the point of having an implementation plan when the feedback from the district council was the ECAN staff might put random numbers of populated things with no regard to the kind of working party or group that they're documenting what to do in the catchment or the Hines catchment implementation plan delivered on the PCT. So if you haven't got those connections in the RPS, where's the direction for zone committees to look at what the future looks like? There's a disconnect.
I suppose, Ian, Councillor McKenzie, that's what we need to work on. Hey, that's what Dan's working on with the RPS, working at the same time. How do we connect in? How do we make sure that we do, connect in with our community? We've heard one thing about today, the CWMS, and I think Councillor Burns reiterated it before, just the, looking at the involvement of community groups, of local councils, and then coming together. So I mean, it is, there is some good examples, and there's ones where we need to work on. So that's probably one we need to work on, and but hopefully move forward with this review as well. We can, that's one of the outcomes we're looking at. Sure. Dan, thank you for your time. You may leave the table. We have the motion, the resolution on page 44. I take that as read. 8.3. A mover, Councillor Ward. Seconder, Councillor Edge. Any comments from either of you? None. By Councillor Edge.
Yes, I'd like to comment. Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Murray, for your presentations today and your comments, Dan. I want to thank Craig as well in terms of the presentation and what came out of the Merrill Forum. A 1 hour workshop delivered a lot of information, and I agree, item 26 and the bullet points there and 27, a pretty powerful support in my mind for continuation in some form of the zone committee approach, or at least local efforts in terms of improving the environment and community integration. And the bullet point there, with Councillor Southworth, support for bespoke local arrangements, whatever they might be. And I know in the Waimakariri District Council, for example, their Water and Land Committee does engage, I think, with the Zone Committee, and it's pretty active. And similarly, in the Kaikoura Zone Committee is really interacts closely with the District Council up there as well. I mean, the key things that I picked up were in terms of participation from members of the community. It is abroad. It's landowners. It's all sorts of people. Keen, and it'll be interesting to see what your next steps are in terms of how going forward. And as Councillor Pauling suggests, the idea of linking and developing some framework that links to RPS, freshwater management units, subcatchments, whatever, and how that plays out, and how that funding and management, especially project management, because I know as someone involved with the Waimakariri zone committee for nearly 10 years in developing the zipper. That for me, I wasn't deflated on here because it was unfinished business for me. And the zone committee, the action planning process is pretty good. But as you say, the strategic idea, I think the strategy going forward is how do we work in that in terms of a regulatory process. And that bottom bullet point on page 48 sort of says it all really. You know, in terms of linking funding and resourcing, providing communication support, ensuring regulatory oversight, which we don't really have at the moment with our, I suppose, the collective catchments for the groups. So how do you bring that into it when you've got another agency funding those sort of groups and offering a shared secretariat, administration support. We also have two things that are important that are coming to Chair, sorry, is the completion of the Canterbury Biodiversity Strategy, which will set some prioritisation for how we go forward and linking into that too. I think it's really.
Kia ora, Councillor Leach, thank you for that. Then and then we've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye, carried. Kia ora. Moving on, 8.4. The Hurunui Waiau Uwha water zone paper there to bring Murray back to the table. Paper is red. Murray, over to you.
Kia ora. All thank you for the opportunity to table these 5 projects in the Hurunui Waiau Uwha water zone. I'd just like to acknowledge two colleagues from operations, James Sharp and Andrew Turnbull, who actually did the mahi on the applications, working with the organisations and landowners to develop these 5 projects and put these forward. Also to quickly note, we've gone through this slightly different process because of what we've just discussed and touched on the earlier items, that with the discharge of the Hurunui Waiau Uwha Water Zone Committee 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we've gone through for this the action plan budget. We've gone through the process of going to Council Runanga and back to you as a committee of council to support these projects if you are in support of the recommendation. The key thing probably to note, and then I can perhaps hand it back to the chair for questions, is that from the time of writing the paper, and as is noted in the paper, we've gone to Hurunui District Council on the 18th of June, and they've been both supportive and appreciative of still having the 75,000 available in the Hurunui Waiau Uwha zone to support projects and initiatives in their district. And we've also had support from Kaikoura Runanga Executive, which came through on Monday. So they had an opportunity to review the 5 projects, and they were supported as well. So just to, I guess, inform you as a committee that we've had that endorsement from both HSC and from Kaikoura Runanga.
Kia ora, Murray. Thank you for that, because that was the next step. That was going to be one of my questions. But just let the committee know that in the back of the maps, it's got all the 5 projects there, and I think Councillor Karakia would like to comment.
With these projects, how do you procure the services? I see the 2 down there. I mean, maybe they can.
I'll speak and then maybe refer to whether Andrew comes forward. But yeah, I guess the projects have been, in the absence of having a committee and a way of connecting directly into the community from a committee perspective, the staff have looked at projects that were aligned well, I guess, with CWMS and different organisations within the district that are working on those sorts of initiatives. So from this year, actually, you may recall in the previous year we had the breeding nesting island as the key project, which had been supported over a number of years from Runanga, the Zone Committee and the Councils, Department of Conservation being a key player in that too. So for the first 2 years of the action plan budget, we focused on that initiative, given that there was widespread support for it. This year we've actually been able to diversify a little bit and have different groups start to, so that may be into the next long-term plan cycle, depending on what happens with funding, something that we can build on again.
So can you just talked about diversification for this one. So when you're talking about the first part of it, and then you're talking about the procurement model, it seems that you have to have some history, okay? With and obviously, yeah, I get that, because you've got to actually possibly have worked on one of the services, the procurement. You've been procured before by Environment Canterbury. You've proven and all of that. So this next part, then, those that haven't actually had that history have an opportunity now to actually be part of that procurement for these. Is that right? Yeah, procurement for services.
Through you, Chair, just to explain to Murray what Councillor Karakia is asking is about the actual procurement of the services rather than the grants given, and I'll try and explain, but then Murray, you come in if I've got this wrong. But these are grants that go to groups who then procure the services. Now, quite a lot of these groups are doing the work themselves, so then it's a slightly different than us procuring the services to do it.
Okay, just hey, do you want to do it? Yeah. Okay. I get that now. But I just want to so even groups, so say for Runanga, for instance, because they haven't had any history there either. I mean, are they able in the second tranche be able to actually put forward, okay, that first tranche, and the second one because we know that they've got experienced people there, you know, to actually carry out the services.
That's absolutely right. That I mean, essentially anybody can apply, and it doesn't require a track record to get a grant. It certainly helps with the committee and you know, in an assessment of it. I mean, normally at the committee stage of looking and thinking, what is the track record of that group? But it can be done either way, and I think I'm right in saying that with one of these projects, the wilding pine at Lake Summer is kind of what you've outlined there, that it is to trying to check it.
Yeah. As long as we're on the same page, because I remember going on the field trip in Waikota, and I asked that specific question, and basically, and it's not about okay, all the services, whatever, you know, and it wasn't. The answer wasn't about that. It didn't. I didn't get the right answer. Put it that way. I'm just trying to ensure that, you know, in this whole process from first and second stage.
Well, kia ora, Councillor Karakia. If we need any clarification, but we take this with Tim later on. Go further. Kia ora. Councillor Burns.
Kia ora, thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I have a question of clarification. Are any of the 5 proposed projects on land that one would deem Environment Canterbury land?
I'll defer to James and Andrew, who are nodding.
No. Wait, any other points, Councillor Twiggs?
Just quickly, the dock partnership, that's not a partnership festival, but $13,500, that's purely just for a contractor to go in and for 3 days and dig up the riverbed to help their thinkers. And that does seem like quite a lot of money, but for that. But the question I had is, it doesn't look like DOC puts any money into that at all, or do they put in other stuff?
Contributions in kind of technical advice. And that is a good part of it.
So it's an Environment Canterbury led or somebody led, not document project, right? Okay. Councillor Wong.
I'm just aware that the part of that zone is below the Hurunui at the Kohi of Nai to Hurunui. So what engagement's gone on with them? I'm just cautious about agreeing to projects in that zone when all of them are in Dakota's area, and have to say what's if there's no mention here of engagement with Hurunui. How are they feeling about it? Which one? Hurunui Waiau zone, which half of it, or some of the zone, is below the Hurunui River, and in the past, Hurunui and Whakatau are on that committee. So I'm just wondering, it doesn't mention any engagement with Hurunui on these. Not that these projects are in the Rohi, but were there any projects in the Rohi that we talked to them about? You see what I'm saying?
Is Hurunui don't want to be involved with the zone committee at the moment? No, they don't want to be, and that's from last year as well. And so all the projects are above north of the Hurunui, so therefore it only engages Karakia. And if there was any below, they would have to try and work with Ngāti Hurunui. But as Ngāti Hurunui don't want to be involved with Hurunui at the moment, we're just engaging with Karakia.
A bit short of that, thank you.
So just on that, just to clarify, am I right in that the relationship breakdown between Ngāi Tuahuriri and Hurunui over the three waters position that they took, that still stands?
I'll let Councillor Korako, as it's his area. But no, I mean the relationship's not there at the moment, and it's trying to be built. There's no further questions. No further questions for Murray and the crew. Thank you for coming to the table and bringing this forward. We have the motion on page 51, recommendations. A recommendation. Are you moved? Move, seconder, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Each, with my glasses on. Any comments from either of you?
No, I'm just really impressed with the 5 projects that have come up for funding. I think the Benny first one is that's I think we might have funded that previously. Is that correct? Given as a part of the zone committee, is that come up, Andrew?
We've done the question, so
sorry, yeah. So anyway, I'm just pretty impressed with the 3 projects that.
And Councillor Edge, very short.
Very short. I just, in terms of the discussion we just had about the projects, I really like the projects and the fact that we're going forward with those. I'm particularly looking at item 17 on page 53, where it describes the range of people who are competent people who we know can deliver this work, and that's really, really good. And in terms of procurement, it's good to see that those competent groups can manage the project. The other thing in my mind in terms of procurement are the application forms for funding, which actually are transparent. They're transparent forms, and there's certain information that has to be supplied by every applicant on the basis of their experience and all sorts of things. So, and I'm particularly impressed by the trustees for the Hanma Springs Conservation Trust, Ken Huey, Tom Davies, and Graham Abbott. So, I mean, these are really good projects, and I think that they will be managed competently.
Yeah, just briefly, I have no doubt the projects are wonderful, but I do struggle, given that we don't have a functioning water zone committee in that area. When, for example, we have a functioning Hurunui District Land Care Group that are involved with many environmental projects. Again, I just feel very uncomfortable given that in the previous paper we heard from a number of the chairs of active and functioning zone committees that they are oversubscribed. So again, it's that struggle with the fact that the purpose of this money is for a zone committee to provide funding for groups that support the plan of each of those individual committees. That's where I have a real struggle. So can I have that noted? There is some concern, and not to harass staff, because I think you're all bloody marvellous, because I've been involved with this project prior to my role here at Environment Canterbury, but it is a glaring example of rewarding something that's not actually functioning, in my view. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor Burns. That is noted and will be in the last minutes of this Water and Land Committee. Tēnā koe. We have a mover and seconder. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Kia ora. Moving right along. This is the end. This is the end. For the Water and Land Committee, I'll just hand over to Deputy Chair Claire Mackay, who has been a leader in the water space over the 3 terms here on council. Just for closing remarks, and then I'll finish off as well. So,
there's something to be said about having a closing remarks, and I will just challenge the last comment. I think that there is no, it's not for want of trying that there isn't a Hurunui Waiau as a zone committee, or the intention of what they had was a strategic committee formed, particularly from the Hurunui District Council perspective. But these are around relationships. Environment Canterbury actually did support what Hurunui District Council proposed and put on the table. So both the TA and the Regional Council supported the change of project. Also, it's just a note that the funding for zone committees or areas across the region are defined in the long-term plan. So the amount of funding was actually defined in the last long-term plan 21-31. So it's not around the funding is there, it's collected out of that across Canterbury, but also collected out of the Hurunui District. So, yeah, thanks. And certainly Canterbury Water Management Strategy and the Land and Water has certainly been close to my heart right through, and I do think it's probably quite timely the last minute that this has actually been focused on Canterbury Water Management Strategy, I guess, and the zone committees, which are an integral part of that. But also acknowledging the iterative process around zone committees when the first one was formed, that we were really building the plane as we were flying. And it feels a little bit like that now. And so, like, zone committees have been under review, of course, our council structures have been under review. So, it's not that discussions around land and water are not going to occur in the new committee structure, but they definitely will. So, I think we'll see a lot of the stuff. But yeah, I think it's been really, it just feels quite a nice end to the day that we've actually had this committee meeting focus on zone committees. Some of them, I see a couple of them still actually online, which is great, around the zone committees and the work and the review and the action plans and the on-ground stuff. And I think that just, I think we've got to really acknowledge the on-ground work that's been done, not only from the zone committees and what they've driven, but also the catchment groups and the other community groups that are actually doing people work on the ground, because they really are, and I don't think that they get highlighted, and we probably don't appreciate it around the table as well. So lastly, I'd just like to thank you, Yayan, for your chairing of the Land and Water and Land Committee and this term of council, and yeah, we'll wait and see what comes next. So thank you very much.
Got it, Claire. Just acknowledge, as I said before, the work you've done in your 3 terms here, especially in the water space. We're championing with the CWMS, and then been, you know, I would have preferred to have you as my co-chair, working together closely, but we can't do that structure. So I was chair and you deputy, but working along with Tim and Cam and the team, and of course Liz and Vivo, just makes it so easy. And then just, you know, having your feedback over this Water and Land Committee has been exceptional, and I really thank you for your support. John, you have something else before I finish?
I do just I guess to say thank you to you, Gay, and to Claire, and for those of us that have been here now nearly for 3 terms. When we came into the planning process, land and water was that thing that we put so much time and effort into and into the planning, and so it does really feel like an end of an era in the sense that this committee is being subsumed into something else. I've just really wanted to reflect on where we have come from and the time that we have been here, and the efforts that have been made and the outcomes achieved. So again, thank you to you two and to all those that have been involved over the years through the different forms of land and water. Thank you.
I know some people are hungry, so I won't go too long, but yeah, I mean, as you know, we've got the 3 core services and the impact framework. We're moving to the new standing committee, strategy and policy and regional delivery, what that looks like and where kind of how water and land fits in, what are the new groups or working groups or what that looks like. You know, that's for us to discuss over the next couple of months, so really looking forward to that. But just acknowledge, thank you for having supported me being the chair. I've really enjoyed it working alongside Tim, and then we'll leave it up to us and where to next. So nā reira, nei anō te mihi kia hotu katoa, and te whautu tōna tēnei. Thank you to everyone. Now hand over to Councillor Burns to close off with our karakia.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Whakatau mai te wairua, whakawātia mai te whenenaro, whakariti mai te tinana, tina hawi whā, i hei Māori ora.